So this is a bonus video. It's another problem from solving a system of equations, and it has three variables, and we're going to solve this. So it's comes from one of the homework problems, so you may have this homework problem. It may have different numbers, but you can use the concepts to help you with some of the homework problems. Okay, so here we go. The sum of the measures of the angles of a triangle is 180 degrees. Okay, so let's say we have a triangle, and that's something we could do. We could draw a triangle, three angles. Let's call this the first angle, the second angle, and the third angle. Now, let me make that first, second, and third. Now, we're going to need variables, and I'm just going to use x for the first, y for the second, and z for the third. You don't have to use those letters, but I'm choosing to use those letters. Okay, so this first equation tells me that the sum of those angles is 180. So if I take x plus y plus z, that would be the sum, and it equals 180. And by the way, that's true for all triangles. The sum of the angles is 180. Okay. Now the second sentence is going to give us another equation. The sum of the measures of the second angle, so the second angle, and the third, so when I add those two together, is going to be your equals twice means two times, the measure of the first angle. Okay? So the sum of the second and third, so y plus z, equals 2x. 2 times the first, and this one was the first. Okay, so I know there's three variables, so you got to keep them straight. That's kind of the tricky part. Okay, the third equation, it says the third angle, so that's z, is 18 more than the second. So the third angle, z, is, there's that equal sign, is, right there, is 18 more than the second, and the second is y. So y plus 18, 18 more than the second. Okay, now we have our three equations. You have to really slow it down. You have to find your variables and then take each sentence and try to create an equation. Now, sometimes I'll have other information in there, but you know, you can kind of look for those pieces. What's going to make an equation? All right. So here are our three equations. That's half the battle right there. Now we have to try to solve the equation. Well, I have only two variables in that bottom equation. I have a z and a y. And in fact, I know what z equals. It equals y plus 18. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this y plus 18 and I'm going to substitute it into that orange equation. Now you might say, well, why didn't you substitute it into the top equation? I could have. I chose not to. and you'll see why in a minute, but here we go. So now my orange equation is going to become y plus, but not z. I'm going to write what z equals, y plus 18. Okay, that's the substitution. That's the idea. Equals 2x. Okay, if I do a little simplifying, y plus 18 equals 2x. 2y plus 18 equals 2x. And now I have an equation that has a y and an x. It doesn't have a z anymore. It just has y and x. Now, I'm going to get a little lucky here. I'm going to do a little trick here. You have to scroll up. I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So I'm going to divide everything by 2. Okay? If you want to think of it as multiplying by 1/2, you can do that. You're allowed to do this, so you're multiplying each term on the left by 2 and the term on the right by 2. That's going to give us y plus 9 equals x. Now, here's some great news. Now we have what x equals. Notice that z equals y plus 18, in terms of y, And now x has it in terms of y as well. X equals y plus 9. Okay, now I'm going to take those two values for z and x, and I'm going to put them in my original top equation. So I'm going to get, you know, for color purposes, I'm gonna make this orange so you can see it. Okay, it's probably silly of me to do that, but it might make it a little easier to follow. This is kind of a complicated problem. Okay, so I'm gonna take my z value here, y plus 18, and I'm gonna put it in right there. And then I'm gonna take my x value, y plus 9, and I'm going to put it in right there, okay? So this is going to give me a new equation. I'm going to have y plus 9, okay, that's the x. Then I'm going to have plus, plus, you know what, I wrote x, and I said y, but I wrote x. Okay, so I'm going to have y plus 9. Delete that part from the video. Okay, so all right, let's back up a minute. So I'm taking that y plus 9, I'm plugging it in for the x into that very top equation, y plus 9, plus y. Now where does that y come from? It's that y right there. Plus, and now I'm not going to write z, I'm going to write what z equals. Y plus 18. And then that equals 180. Now I have an equation that only has one variable. It's all in terms of y, not any x's, not any z's. So that's the goal here, is to try to get an equation that we can solve. This equation we can now solve. All right, so let's do that. I don't really need these parentheses. I was just trying to show you where everything was coming from. I get 3y plus 27 equals 180. And when I did this problem earlier today, I was like, you know, everything's divisible by 3. Let me just divide everything by 3. You can do that. You're allowed. And it just makes the numbers smaller. You don't have to do it that way. But, you know, I don't know. I think it's easier. You could have subtracted the 27 and then divided by 3, but this will work. Subtract the 9, so I get y equals 51. That then is the answer for y. Yay, we got one of the answers. Y is 51. That's the second angle, 51 degrees actually. But you're not done because you got to find x and z. But good news, we have equations that tell us what x is. Right here, x is y plus 9, and we just figured out what y was. It was 51. So now x is 60. So you're using that idea of substituting. You're taking that y value that you just figured out and you're putting it in, and you get x equals 60. So we know the first angle is 60 and the second angle is 51. What about the third angle? Great news. We've got an equation that tells us it's that green equation. I'll just copy it down again. But the green equation said z equals y plus 18. But again, we know what y is. I forgot what it was, 51. So I add those together and I get z equals 69. Okay? So those are the three answers. You know, in WebAssign, I don't know how they're going to put it. They might say something like the first angle, and then you're going to write, that was 60. That was the first angle. Second angle, okay, that was 51. And then the third angle, that was 69. Now you can do a quick check, add them up, see if it adds up to 180. That's one check. Then you can check the other equation. I'd have to go way back at the beginning. What did it say? It said, if I multiply the second angle by 2, so 102, and then it's the sum, I think, of the other two. I have to go back and look. Let me see. I'm just checking it now. I've got the answer. The sum of the measures of the second and third angle, so that's y and z, is that twice the first. Okay, so twice the first, that's 120. And then if I add the others, do I get 120? Yeah, so that works. And then the last one said the third one is 18 more than the second one. So is 69 18 more than 51? Yeah. Okay, so we're just checking it, just talking about it. You can put them in the equations and check them that way too. So now it's a long video, but I'm hoping these are kind of long problems. I'm hoping though that explanation will help you. So you want to get those equations. If you have three variables, you're going to need 3 equations. Then you try to get everything in terms of one variable, one equation with one variable, and you can solve for that. Then you have to go back and solve the other 2 variables. Okay, well, good luck with them, and I hope this helps.